Okay, we are live on Facebook. Welcome to this panel for the virtual Monsterama 2020. My guest for this panel is Mr. Troy Baker, who is a dioramist. I guess that's a real word, I think. Who knows? Well, we're coining it. Um, so, Troy, we're going to go through a slide presentation, and then you get to narrate it as we go through it. But at first, I just wanted, can you tell everyone how you got started doing dioramas? Because you do have an art background, right?
Yes, but I got obsessed with music for many years as an art outlet, making my own music. Just, it's not my natural talent, but I love doing it. And I can say I am a guitar player now because of that. But art, art was my natural talent. So I just wanted to always do something like that. And I figured I'd leave it for my retirement, but my son was born and like surprising my life. So I was like, I better do it now. It's places I want to travel, but because he's here, I probably won't go there. But I just wanted to bring him home to him.
Right.
Like these are the places I always thought in my mind I'd like to go. And so I'll share it with him. And maybe one day he will travel to those places.
Wow, that's such a great idea to introduce them that way. Well, that goes in with what we're going to do here with these um, with the slide. So um, I'll start it, and this is a stop and start presentation. So when you want to say anything, you can go pause this screen and let me talk a little bit about this, and I'll ask you some questions, and we'll just go with it with that format if that's okay.
Okay.
All righty. So let's start this one. Okay. So here's our menu, Troy. And in talking with you, these were kind of the 8 points that we thought we would cover. And those would be the story, materials and tools, foam cutting and fabrication, sturdy construction, using repurposed items, water, painting, lights, and sound. Uh,
Yes.
so let's start with the first one, if it cooperates with me. There. Come on, get a load on. All right, let's just jump forward. Well, now it got frozen. Hang on a minute. There we go. Okay. So the first one is what's it about? So what I tried to do was pick some photos that really illustrated this idea for you. So this first one is kind of one of the things I noticed about any artist that works in diorama or custom figures, and even any kind of painting or model work or anything, is they kind of have a story that leads them into everything that they do. So, tell me a little bit about your process on how you develop these things from the very beginning. Like how do they start for you?
Well, this was actually my second big diorama, and I did it because I wanted to totally get away from making trees. But it was a story from childhood of the GI Joe where there's an earthquake and he's in Egypt and he finds this mummy and he digs it out. So I was like, wanted to put a little bit more of what I envisioned into it, but um, I'm it's like when I started my first dioramas, I had three ideas. One would be a scene. I actually turned my cell phone sideways and said, okay, this is a scene. I would go outside every day and see these visions of what the landscape looks like. It goes back, it goes up, it goes smaller, and you cannot see the sides. So my first diorama was that. But on this one, I wanted to do a box diorama, but make it look larger than life. So I made a window with that story idea where the earthquake has broken everything up, the ceiling's broken, the wall there where he actually discovers it, where the sand came down, and you can see Egypt outside that window, and you can see the sky above, and then I wanted to make the cavern look bigger than life, so I did a little side thing there where you can see the light where it looks like it goes back farther. So that was my whole idea with that,
So,
to make it look
just
larger than life inside a box.
right. So everyone knows this one. This is a vintage 12-inch Joe.
Yes.
Um,
And I put the actual ones in there because I want them to kind of contrast, the realism.
right. Oh,
So
I
it's
love.
like, holy crap, this is that size. That's the whole purpose of that right
Right.
there. Plus the childhood memories, and it's like I want to give them some kind of recognition to like this is what made me part of my life want to do something like this. The adventure.
Right. Exactly. Great. And the inset picture here is something we'll get into later, but and that is uh, like this completes this story element is this use of light. It is so dramatic. I love this picture, and to have both of them, the before and the after of this, and the way it's photographed, it's just simply is breathtaking that way. The colors and everything, I really love that one.
I
So
I gotta say that that figure in the picture was a Cotswold figure, and I really hacked it up. There, I'm sorry, but I did. I mean, to get that pose, I like really did some stuff to it. But
oh, it's
the
beautiful.
Cotswold stuff is great, and the helmets uh, and the pick and shovel are authentic, original GI Joe stuff.
And the
Everything
mummy,
else is Cotswold.
the little sarcophagus, is that one of the original ones?
Yes, but I hacked it up. So
Oh
I,
yeah, yeah.
there's things I do to some stuff that like some of the guys would be like, "Holy crap, I can't believe you did that." But
Well, it's the end product. They died for their art.
right?
Okay, let's go to the next one here. So our next point is what do you use to make all this stuff? So this one is materials, and I wanted to here in a minute. I'll pause this. Um, so talk a little bit as this is showing what all you're using that we see here.
Okay, so background is foam insulation board, basically the pink stuff. And that top part is like I use a lot of rocks, like actual rocks, and I just press them in there to make that shape. And then the actual figures I sculpted from Sculpey and hardened them, and then I glued them to it, and then I used drywall spackling to kind of make them look, shape around them just kind of press it in and this and that. Then you can go back in when it dries and get what you don't want or whatever, shape it out and this and that. And I just wanted to make it look like it's actually part of the wall, like it's sculpted into it. I used some high density foam on that Buddy Fenathy gave me. Um, and that I love that stuff. Big time.
Well,
Um,
um, for small amounts of foam, um, I think I talked to you about this before. You could take Gorilla Glue and mix a little bit of water in it, and it will expand like a polyfoam. And it's great for filling in ridges and adding bulk to little small areas where you can control it a little better by just mixing up little amounts. And the expansion is not as much as some of the other polyfoams that you might buy. It's
right.
low, and it depends on how much water you add too.
Yeah, the actual I love Gorilla Glue, and the actual problem I has is you can't really paint acrylic paint on it, and man, you can't hardly cut through it with a Dremel, much less a hot knife. So, but I still use it. It depends on the piece. You got to figure out, what you're going to do ahead of time, I guess,
Right.
on certain things like a visual. It doesn't have to be like, oh, plan it all out. You just kind of be like, okay, I'm probably going to sculpt this out. Maybe I shouldn't use that for this or
Right.
whatnot.
Okay, let's go to the next one here. Any special tools that you favor? I saw there was a picture, and I thought I posted it in here, but I don't think I did, where you show some rasps and some other things. Um, what else? What other kind of tools do you use?
Well, on this actual video, I'm just using a fine point.
Let me
I
back
don't
up.
know if this
Go ahead. You can
owns it
keep talking.
right. Okay. I'm using a fine point Sharpie because somehow it reacts to the foam. So I had cut those out and then shaped them the way I wanted and then glued them on top of each other. And because I cannot figure out a way to actually put or transfer an image to that foam. I've tried for years. I can't figure it out unless you use maybe a opaque projector or whatever. So I was basically freehanding that sculpts on there with a fine point Sharpie. Um, I think the first time I ever did one was on the main left wall of that, and I just basically like drew everything on, and then went in and like was using a little cheap pen that I got at Harbor Freight or whatever. It's like a little etching pen,
Right.
and over and over and over and over. And so I decided on this piece, I'm just going to use a regular Sharpie and see what happens. And it just kind of reacts to the foam. And if you can freehand do your stuff, or if you can figure out a way to make transfer images on there, you can. But
Have you ever have you ever taken a sheet of paper and just taken you need an HB pencil, or if you have any higher B pencil like a 6B or something like that, um, and you just shade on the back of the paper and then lay it on something and trace it on the front.
right,
It will trace
okay,
it
so
like graphite. Now I've done that with foam and it works.
yeah. Well, it's like my dad was a printer, so
Yeah.
he years ago he gave me these really thick carbon. I'm talking thick. It's not like, carbon copy paper. It's really thick ink, and it would not even transfer on there. And I tried everything. So that's why I freehanded it. It's
Right.
like I tried everything there could be. The only other, especially at that small scale. I mean, I'm working with a really small scale, so sometimes things don't work out the way you would like.
Right. Now, now this one, um, this is just a series of layers to build up this column. Is that how you did this?
Um, yes, they're each was cut out, and then basically I use a file to file them down to get them as straight as possible. But it's an ancient thing, so most time I'm not really concerned about it being perfect. And
Right.
some of that main figure going down there, I had to do maybe little small files or this and that to get the rounded shape to it. But other than that, the all the um, glyphs, hieroglyphs, the small ones, I just freehanded like I'm doing in the video there.
Right.
Yeah,
This
I
is
got little drawings there to kind of guide myself, like what do I want to put here. I mean, it's random. I just
right.
be like, this will look cool here. Okay, let's go.
Well, I notice in the background there, you can see your research. You can see your copies of the glyphs and stuff.
Oh yeah, I had to research, and it's just basic kind of stuff. It's not, as good as what you would find in Egypt, but
Well,
it is what it is.
you'd be surprised how many people leave out uh, research as one of the steps in creating things. A lot of people take it, they just wing it, and there needs to be some authenticity to these things, and you need to do your research, especially if your ultimate goal is that there needs to be a reality there. So,
Right.
all right, this one is a point you brought up in our conversations on the phone that I thought was really interesting. That never have I seen anyone really address, and that was um, just a good, stable construction. And you have a great way of doing this for yours. Um, so you could talk a little bit about this. Um, so this is all modular. Oh, wait a minute. I jumped the gun here. Okay. Um, so this thing is all modular and it all comes apart.
Yes.
Uh, so let me show what it does, and then you can talk about how you did it.
Okay.
And you can talk while it's showing here, and I'll pause it.
I'm just clicking it together with the magnets.
Okay, now talk to them about putting the magnets into the foam, and how are you attaching the magnets and all that sort of thing.
I just kind of line them up where they have to be, and then I think I used a Dremel, and just that was like basically the same width of the magnet circumference, and then I just glued them in there, and
What are you using as your adhesive for the magnets?
I think I used Gorilla Glue. Yeah.
Okay, so it would expand a little bit to lock them in there.
Oh yeah, I love Gorilla Glue. It's quick and dries a lot quicker than anything else, and it pretty much adheres a lot of stuff. So
Right. Well, why I mentioned this point, the presentation I was just part of dealt with making something, and it was so big to get it out of the guy's apartment. We made it, and then we had to take it apart. It wasn't originally designed to be modular, but it became that through accident. Where, um, you know, magnets probably could have solved some of our problems because
right,
we could have taken it apart easy and then put it back together easily. And that's what I mean about this is it's such an obvious solution, but I think a lot of people never think of it. For if nothing else, storage, because you see this big box of a thing and you wonder, well, where in the world am I going to keep this? Uh, and then you put it all together, and then for travel, you can just take it all back apart.
right.
Are the columns also embedded with magnets?
No, you just the slots. I made them to where you could just put them in there because I actually had to ship this thing to somebody, and I tried to make it as cheap as possible, and
Right.
made it easy for him to just kind of. And this video is basically for him to know how to put it together. That's why I made it. I made this video so he could see how you just snap it all together this way, follow these directions, and so he did, and he loves it. I mean, you could pick it up. I mean, you can't just like pick it. You got to be a little careful, grab it on the bottom, pick it up,
Right.
and it stays together really, really well. So it's like put it together like this, put it in your shelf. You can put all your stuff on it.
Right. Well,
That's
you should
basically
you should have mailed him some like mock IKEA directions that had no words and it was just in hieroglyphs.
right.
You had to figure out how to put it together.
Right.
But yeah, I love seeing like simple solutions to things that turn out to be a pretty big problem. Sometimes is how do I take this to a show? You know, um, how do I mail it to somebody?
Well, if everybody kind of just went on a basic kind of thing like this, they could probably take all their. I mean, after I did my first diorama, I mean, pretty much all my dioramas come apart. But this was a piece that was going to go to somebody. They were paying for high quality stuff that would look good for them. So I did it this way, and I'm sure if I ever do that again, that I'll make it this type of quality to where they can just snap it together, take it apart if they move or whatever, but it's still foam. So, it's still kind of delicate, but
Right.
not so much. I mean, it's not as delicate as you would think, but for the most part, it's pretty sturdy stuff.
All right. Let's jump to the next one here. All right. Hey, I know what that's from. This is a about repurposing objects. So these two pictures show a couple pieces, um, and talk about some of the stuff that you use that you get from other sources. And is this a lot of
Well,
people that repurpose? They end up with boxes full of just stuff that they find that they think they'll use. Do you have one of these boxes?
oh man, more than one probably. I mean, it just because I never know exactly like, hey, this might work good for something one day. But I'd gone to I think Michael's. I saw a bunch of snakes. So I bought this tube of snakes one time for what 50% off or whatever. Threw them in a drawer, and then one day I was like, okay, I'm just gonna make a quickie, blah blah blah. I'm gonna do this, and then I was like, what would be cool in this? Well, hey, don't I have something downstairs? I looked through the drawer, I found a snake, so I painted him up and I added him. But the face there was actually the whole statue's in a piece that I just kind of molded and cast the face real quick. And then I have some I'll do just with clay sculpey if I want. And I mean, I sculpted everything else but the actual face. It's like it's a quickie fix to a, instead of having to take mass time. I work job, I got a kid, da da da. So I can make this look really cool with just doing a little mold of something and throwing it on there, gluing it on, and then I do all the rest and paint it up, and it looks awesome.
Right. And I know you do that with parts of plants and things to use as part of your dioramas. A lot of model builders do that.
Yeah, I've done that quite a bit, but I generally do not like the way they're painted, so I usually paint them all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any other items that you find you kind of go back to that are repurposed sort of things that you just, I like these. I would use these
I
again.
mean, I use I've used a vacuum tube that was going to get thrown away. A bread maker I took apart and like found some pieces. I'm like, that looks really cool,
Right.
and I mean, just all kinds of stuff. You can always find something that looks really cool that you can repurpose in your art. You know,
That's
to
an excellent
um,
point to make.
right.
Everyone can have 2 or 3 boxes of junk laying around that they hope to use one day. Um, okay, let's go to the next one here. I wish this had like a little clock that tells you when it's moving to the next one. All right. What if we want to add water? So I know this is a sticking point for you based on your most recent project that you did. So let me back up. I want to back up to that first shot there. And pause it there for a minute. This is before you did the water or during?
It was during. This is my first test for actual, you know, water on this scale, of course, because I have an idea for something that I was building up to, and then I had to do a couple things before I could do it because I had a commission job, and then I had something I had to take down to Georgia, so it kind of set me back. But I actually have a can of stuff from like a taxidermy. Um, but I want to try this just basically like how's this work? What can I do with this? But so I was using stuff basically that you would use on a model railroad that products they produce. You could probably get them anywhere.
Right.
Um, but the problem I had was they had this stuff that's supposed to dry clear, and I wanted to make some waves around the snake, and it just wouldn't clear up. So I don't know if it wasn't cured under. I mean, I was taking one like 16-inch around the whole base every time I poured the stuff, but I don't know if it didn't cure around there or what the problem was, but it just would not clear up.
So let me jump to the next picture. I think this shows what you're talking about.
Yeah, see that if that was clear, because underneath that snake was the best part of the Dio. I mean, you could see under there, it looked like this scummy rocks and stuff. It was beautiful. And that basically screwed the whole thing up. But I had another vision before this. I mean, it's like you got all these, it's like a lot of I've seen snakes going through a lot of green stuff on top the I don't know what you call it on top of the water.
You mean like algae and stuff?
Yeah, I mean it's like I've seen them. It's just all green stuff on top. And the only other problem I have with this is like it was so hard to keep anything off that snake because if you ever see a picture of snake, none of that stuff sticks to it. So you're never gonna see any of that on top of it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was another problem I had. So if I was ever gonna do a snake again, or maybe even this one, I'll probably try to remove all that debris on it because you'll never see it sticking to it. Never. That's just nature, you know.
So this product and this is these clear resins are sometimes notorious um, for having issues with them. So I'm going to guess you're not going to use that particular product ever again.
Um, Perhaps, but Maybe it was because it wasn't cured enough. I'm not really 100% for sure,
Right.
because I waited a lot of hours for each process, but it was getting cold out and this and that. So I put some stuff like a couple days before on some parchment paper and it dried clear. So I was like, okay, I'm going to use it directly on it instead. Um, and it just didn't clear. So I don't really know why. I can't completely, you know, give them crap about it or whatever.
Right. Well, the snake is, how is he glued down to the base?
Um, he's actually not glued down.
Oh, okay. What I was thinking is, how sometimes, super
Talking
glue
about the
block
snake, right?
glass and have all these weird effects on plastics. Uh, and, a lot of times these vinyl items, paint won't stick to it, or
Right.
it'll stick, but it never fully cures. It's always kind of slightly tacky sometimes. And I'm wondering if possibly it's a reaction to the vinyl in the snake.
Yeah, it could be, but the snake I actually painted first with a really nice acrylic base for that kind of thing.
Right. And he was sealed.
Excuse me?
Was he spray sealed after that?
No, I painted this acrylic base on it that's made for stuff like that. And then I painted acrylic on top of that. The other um resin that I added had no effect whatsoever with anything. It was dry, it dried clear and everything. It was just those wavy type stuff on
Right.
top,
Right.
which most of it wasn't even touching. I mean, basically it wasn't even touching because the waves are outside of his body. So I don't think that stuff was really even touching him. Like when I squeezed it out of the tube, it was going along his body but not touching him. And I used toothpicks or whatever, just kind of get those shapes I wanted around it and this and that, and just never cured clear.
Hmm. The great mystery.
Right.
Okay, let's head on to the next one here. We'll leave our snake friends behind. It looks like real rock. Now, this one is about painting, um, and I love this shot of the raw sculpture and then this comparison um, of of um, of painting this. And I have pictures here afterwards. So tell me a little bit about just your approach to painting these rocks to get them to look
Um
so real. Obviously, someone that has spent a lot of time looking at rocks, but
um my friend asked me, he's like, hey man, this dragon stone's so expensive. And I was wondering, it's like, I don't, you think you can make one? And I'm like, sure. After he showed me some images, I'm like, sure, I can make that, man. I'm pretty sure I can. So I just started sculpting it out without gluing it together or anything, just taking foam, putting it together, sculpting it. And then I glued them and put drywall spackling in it and everything. And then I went back in and shaped it again. And then the paint is like I paint from the inside out. So I paint everything white, and then I start thinking about what the inside of that rock looks like, or the inside of a tree or anything. Like, yeah, a tree's all dark or this and the outside, but when you cut it, it's you know it's got this tan color or this white, and it spreads out. And so that's pretty much the way I do most all my painting. And those rocks have a lot of color. I just looked at images of them and I'm like, wow, this is going to be great So I just started adding all the colors and this and that and do different stuff to it. And then my buddy came over and I said, "Hey, you're gonna um you're gonna do the dry brush on this because you know I made it for you." And he's an artist too, so it was cool to watch him dry brush something I painted from the inside out.
Right. And here's the transition of these colors happening. Just beautiful. Um, now, what when you paint something like the rocks, um, you I could tell you using a paintbrush there. Do you also use sponges and any splatter with the toothbrush, or what kind of stuff do you like to use to get those textures and those colors on there?
99% of the time I just use a brush, but there's been a couple times I use sponges, you know. Um, it's fun to just like you got this white thing and you can go in there with a sponge, put some really wet paint on there. It's gonna just drip down and you just go up to it and push it and it drips all down and starts looking so cool. I'll use sponges sometimes, but most of the time I use a brush. And for a lot of times for that kind of stuff I'll use a I don't even know what the brushes are called, but they're the ones that kind of look like a teardrop, you know. Um, I'll use those a lot. Get it really wet, maybe some alcohol in it or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
just pour it down there and see all the streams. Like especially rocks, man. They're just beautiful, man. I mean, if you look at them, they're so beautiful. If you really pay attention to rocks, you'll be like, "Holy crap! There's so much color in them." And so, you know, that's what I do.
So, well, the most important tool for an artist, any doing any kind of artwork, is the skill of just seeing. Open your eyes, look around, just absorb all this information, all this visual stimulation, so that you can uh, begin to put it back into your art. Um, the next one is, I don't know, something's missing. Okay, so now we're back to kind of where we started uh, with. We've got all the technical skill applied to this, and then you start adding this other element. Um, and so tell us about how you approach this part.
Well, this is actually because some people are just so anxious, you know, to see what I got to share. So, I'll do a little extra something sometimes to just you know, keep them fed. So, like this is basically unfinished. So I just added some figures like from this whole story of why this came about because I wanted to go to Indonesia, dive off the shore, and then go on to Komodo Island and see the Komodo dragons and stuff like that. So when I was a kid, you know, I grew up with Johnny Quest. So this is Dr. Ashita and Race Bannon and Dr. Quest. So that's the whole kind of story was Dr. Ashita. I was like, fascinating character. He played in one Johnny Quest. He died, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, he had his island of his own, but let's make him Komodo Island. And so I started looking up stuff about that. And, you know, I still freebase a lot of stuff. And then this is unpainted behind, but with the lights, it just the white and that just makes it really pop out. So I was like, they're a little anxious to see something of my progress, so I'll give them a little something.
Right now, this one you set up the lights, but some of the ones that you make, the lights are part of the diorama.
Yes.
So I think the next one is an example of one of those. Um, wait a minute, I went too far. Okay, And at the beginning, we had the little clip that showed this, because this one, in addition to having the light in there, this one had sound.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about this particular one, because I have seen this one in person. This is the one that I have seen in person.
Um, so I went, it's hard to explain, but I went to a concert with my wife to see this odd band that we like just to get out because we don't ever, maybe once a year we get out. And so we went to this concert called Here Come the Mummies. And on the stage, they had these flames just shooting up. And I'm like, those are insanely cool, but I know they can't be real. So I was inspired to like, what if I could do that 1/6 scale? What I got to figure out, it's got to be cloth, it's got to be air, blah, blah, blah. And I researched a lot and I really couldn't find much. And then I found this dude that like made this flame maybe for a stripper or something. And it was insane. Like this guy's, yeah, for real. It's like, he doesn't say, but she's a dancer. And it's like, um,
A dance.
so I made it 1/6 scale and I used, for the flame there, I used silk, really fine silk, and I just put the lights underneath, and then I got this fan. You had to have a high velocity fan to do it, so I found one from China. It was like, you can recharge it, this and that. I had to put that thing. I can't even go into it because it's got a big housing underneath that goes under. You can take it out. You've seen it.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about.
it's
So,
big. It's a big piece.
yeah, but the actual diorama is not that big. It's the housing.
Right, the
Really.
housing and everything. I remember when it was there and walking around it and seeing all the stuff that's both behind it, and so underneath is the fire, but then behind it in the background, if everyone can see, are the stars. The star field is back there.
Yeah, my buddy, he knew somebody. He's like, hey, I know somebody that can print this out because I was basically gonna do it like they did, like paint a thing that's white on the back, paint it on the front, make all the stars with a pinpoint or whatever,
Right.
kind of like. And he's like, man, I'm telling you, I can get you one printed. You should go with a print because you can do all this and that. So I went with it, and he got a guy to print it out. I mean, I had to pay for it, but um it goes across there and like it's got color. It's beautiful.
It
Yeah.
is. That is I mean, and talk about a story. This is just a moment in time. Uh, just looking at this thing, and then the other element is that this one has sound.
Yes. So I I'm an I used to do a lot of music and this and that. So I got audio equipment. So I just went on searching for animals that would be in the wild at night, um, in Africa, and I found all these different sounds, and I would record them into my audio and just kind of mix them all together, but have a campfire the whole entire piece because that's what it is. And these different sounds, and it's like, wow, they're so scary. All these sounds that you would actually hear in the real wild of Africa, which I wanted to experience myself, but
But it's easy to get lost in it. That's for sure.
oh, yeah, it was a lot of fun, and a headache. Trust me, way more time than I wanted, but yeah, it was. That's my main piece right there.
That's a beautiful. Now, tell them where this piece is. How because this is how I met you first. Is we happened to be at Buddy Finnety's house at the same
Right.
time, and you brought this thing to him for what purpose?
It was that show got canceled because coronavirus, just like this one, I guess.
Right. That's
And
toy land.
I had promised him no matter what, I would bring it down so it could be in a diorama museum for somebody, there was a donation type thing
Right.
for
That's the Cody
raising funds.
Banks Museum.
The what?
It's Cody Banks Museum, who was a
Yeah,
toy collector, if I remember that part of it right. And they are getting funding for this museum to continue it as a toy and a diorama museum.
right. Yeah, see, I don't really know all those guys really close or anything, but it was for a good cause, and it's like my wife and a few of my friends like that belongs in a museum. So I was like, okay, like it's going to go for a good cause. My wife really wanted me to do that. I mean,
Oh,
and
it's
my wife's a really smart person and a caring person. So, um,
well, one of the things I think you and I share here is this idea of taking toys, but taking them to a whole nother level of experience. You do it with this size, this scale. Um, I do mine with life size figures, but you know, we parallel in so many ways with our approach to telling a story. And I just find that fascinating when people do this, and it's all encompassing as an experience. But you said something earlier, and that was that it needed to maintain that innocence of a toy. Because I
yeah,
notice in all these, for all the realism of the diorama, the figure remains true to being a toy.
yes,
Um, and it constantly reminds you this is a toy. This is a and that experience and all that nostalgia and everything. I really like that about these pieces of artwork, and that's what I consider them to be. Just
it's
they
what
are.
fuels you when you're a child.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like to actually want to do this later on in your life. Like, you vision these things when you're a child. You get older and you're like, I'm gonna make this happen, any
Right.
way I
Because
can.
I think this is what we see as children. When we're playing with these figures and things, we imagine them in this reality. We don't
Right,
imagine them in a cardboard box with with some
right,
paint on it or a vinyl playset or something. This is what we imagine.
right.
So that is superb. It's just superb work, Troy.
Thank you.
So, well, look at this. You filled almost an hour, and you were afraid you wouldn't be able to do it. So we are at the almost the hour spot. So perfect, perfect. Um, before I let you go, I got to make a plug here for anyone watching. Um, a fundraiser that Monsterama is part of is encouraging everyone to go onto the Monsterama website or the Facebook page and make a donation to the Motion Picture and Television Fund. Um, uh, we all love our celebrities and our actors and actresses, and some of us kind of forget that these people are famous but not necessarily rich, especially those of us that love the old stars. And some of these folks end up at the motion picture home, and it is funded through this. And it's a great cause. If there's anything you can do to help donate, again, go to the Monsterama site and throw a little something towards them. Um, Troy, do you any last thoughts? Anything you want to plug or tell us about before we get out of here?
Now, I just want to say thanks a lot, Clay. Give Buddy and Steve a big, huge kiss from me.
This is live.
All right, that's all right.
I will, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know in some ways it was a little stressful for you gathering everything up, but I hope I did you justice to show off this great work.
Thank you very much, buddy.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
say buddy as not as in buddy, but
Oh,
Clay.
I
I
know. I
love you.
know. I know who you mean. I know who you mean.
Thank you, Clay.
All right. Thank you. You have a good night.
You too.
Okay.